Okay, we're on the top of Daf Zion. So the Gemara is talking about tzadin as ha'ishos, you're allowed to trap moles and mice. And there was a machlokes in the Mishnah, if it's a stay lavan, maybe you need a shinui. So the Gemara starts. Rabbi Yehuda holds. Amish doesn't say Rabbi Yehuda. It says v'chachomim. The different case here is Rabbi Yehuda. So that says that a chumrah that when it's a stay love and it's not such a big hefsed, and therefore you have to do it with a shinoi. Case Tanaban case kedarko. So it's telling you how to do a shinoi. What's the regular way to trap a mole, and what's the not regular way? Case kedarko. Chofer guma v'tola b'masuda. You dig a hole, I guess, in the place where the tunnel, where they expect it to tunnel through. So you have a hole, and there's put a trap into the hole, and he'll get caught when he comes in. That's the regular way. You have to get a mole trap. So here's a question how to learn machlokes rishonim over here. You thrust a spud, a stick with a point in it. That's called spud, a spit. You throw it, you thrust it in, and you knock onto the stick with a hammer. So Rashi learns that these words, that the whole way of trapping it is you're going to kill it. You're going to kill it. You thrust this spud into the mole. Rashi here on the fourth line. No spud b'makom shem mitzuyin u'marda adama u'mamay chosan. So I don't know what the Rashi understands marda adama. If you're able to have such a good aim to be able to kill the mole right away, I guess when you see the earth as he's tunneling through, you see that there's a mound of earth, that's a moving mound of earth as he's tunneling. I've seen it once. So if it's possible to kill it as you see it, you just thrust the stick in. So then the words marda adama was a little bit difficult. Marda adama, I don't know. But the Rambam, he learns a little different than Rashi. He says that it's the same as before, that you can use a trap. But before it says chofer guma, that you dig a ditch in order, a hole in order to put the matzuda in. And here he's just telling you how to make the hole, that the hole has to be made with a shinoi. How do you make the hole with a shinoi? You take a stick and you knock a hole into, you knock it into the ground, and then you take out the stick, and then there's a hole. So it's just another way of saying how to make the hole. So that's the shinoi. So again, there's a regular way of doing it, and sometimes you don't need a shinoi. According by a stay Elon, according to everybody, by a stay Lovan is a machlokes. And when you do need a shinoi, how do you do the shinoi? So machlokes rishonim how to learn the Gemara. Either it means that you kill it, you just are allowed to kill it straight. You're not allowed to make the trap. You have to kill it, and that's not the regular way of doing it. You rather just make the trap and then go away and come back. Here you have to go running after it to find it and to thrust the stick into it.
I don't know, but it's more
That's called, okay, maybe it's motecha, but it's a shinui. Here the one wants a shinui. And the Rambam says it's just the shinui, how to make the hole. You're also going to make a hole with a trap, but you don't make a hole by digging, chofer. You make a hole by sticking the stick in and then taking it out, then you have a hole. Tanya, Rav Shimon ben Elazar or Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, whatever the gear says here, Omru, Kisha Omru b'stei lavan shalom kedarko, la Omru elam b'stei lavan asmucha le'ir, aval b'stei lavan asmucha l'stei ilan afilu kedarko, shema yetzu b'stei lavan v'yachrivu asei lanos. Even though the Mishnah says that sometimes you need a shinoi, according to this Tana, Rabbi Yehuda, the Chachamim, that the stay lavan is not such a hefsed, and therefore you have to have a shinoi. That's only when it's not close to a stay ilan. Again, everyone knows that a stay ilan is a hefsed and you're allowed to do it on a shinoi. A stay lavan is a machlokes. But he's saying a stay lavan is only when it's by itself. It's isolated, it's next to the city, it's not next to any stay ilan, which these machborim and moles, they might go into the next field. But if it will be next to a field that's smucha the stay ilan, then everybody holds, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, it also is mutter to do it without a shinoi, because they might go from the stay lavan into the stay ilan. So he wouldn't be machmer to do it with a shinoi. So then to that Gemara, again, the Gemara said, first of all, what's the regular way of doing it? What's the shinoi? The technicality of how to do it with a shinoi. And then it's opened up a window in Rabbi Yehuda, the Chachamim of our Mishnah, that say that by a stay lavan, you need a shinoi. That's only when it's not next to a stay ilan. But if it's next to a stay ilan, we look at it already like a stay ilan, and also you'd be allowed to do it without a shinoi. The Mishnah continued a new point about building a fence. So it said, Mekaron as a piece of a moed. And the Mishnah ended off, that if a fence breached, you're allowed to fix it up. The word Mekaron, l'chora, I can't say for sure, I think the word Mekaron is from the word kir. Usually to be makra something, Mekara, Mekara, Mama Yosef, usually we say it's from the word of a tikra. That means a ceiling. But it's not talking about a ceiling. It's talking about a wall. So it seems to say that you're allowed to fence in a breach. But from the contrast that the Mishnah right away says, Ubashvi bono kedarko, that means this is not bono kedarko. This is not a regular wall. And the word right away says that you have to do only like a patchwork kind of a thing, an amateur job, because it's chol moed. We're not going to be mati you to do too professional. Kesad makarin, how do you make this wall? You can make a regular wall. Hutsa means leaves, branches. Hutsa, we find that by a lulav, it means the leaves of a lulav. Dafna, they say some other kind of a tree branches. I guess that was just that's a normal. This is the regular expression for making some kind of amateur fence. Hutsa v'dafna, or leaves and branches. The Masisa Tana Tzor B'Tzro Ve'im Toch Petit. The Brisa says also a way of making an amateur wall that you could put the tzroas, you could put stones, pebbles, but you can't use cement. So that's considered a makeshift temporary wall. But on Shvius, the Mishnah ends off on Shvius, you're allowed to build a regular wall. There's no issue of building on Shvius. The only problem is because we'll see soon that it looks like you're watching the Peiros. You're not being mafka the Peiros. So we'll see in a second about Shvius. But so far it says that on Chol moed that the fence broke down, you're allowed to build amateurish fence. So he says that the Mishnah says you have to have some kind of a shinoi. You can't do a regular wall. That's only when it's the wall of a garden, the coastal gina. Then, if it broke down, then these animals are going to come in and it might destroy the vegetables that you have growing over there. So then you're allowed to make a fence, but it has to be something that's not professional. But if it will be a coastal chutzner, if it will be the wall of a courtyard, then you're allowed to build regular. So Rashi says on this, the reason is because it's a hefsid, it's a davar of it, because then the ganovim would come in and they'll steal. By the gina, by the vegetables, you're not scared of ganovim too much, not such a big loss. No one's going to come and take a cucumber. That's not the point. But the point is the animals might come in. So it's enough to make, it's not called a davar of it too much. It can make something that's a makeshift kind of a fence. But a coastal chutzner, it's already serious that the ganovim might come. So then you're allowed to build a regular wall. Just going to put chutzner v'dafna, that's not going to deter the ganovim. Here Rashi says, Ikab say the Yisera, because ganovim are going to come and steal his money from his chutzner, from his house. So therefore, you're allowed to make a regular wall in Chol moed. This is a big heter. It means it's necessary. You have to notice heter. That in Chol moed, if something falls in a way the ganovim might come in, you're allowed to build regular. That was what Rav Chisda said. The more
it might apply for window also, I guess.
Yeah, anything that ganovim might come in, you'd be allowed to fix regularly. The more things that it has a brisa, which is a support of Chisda, that if it's a coastal chutzner, you'd be allowed to build regularly. It says in a brisa, kosal hagocha or hagoa l'shus haravim sosa banu kedarko mepnei hasakana. That it's very strange how the Gemara sees this brisa as being a support, because it says a lot more than we would have expected. Rav Chisda said that a coastal chutzner you're allowed to build. He didn't even explain himself. Rashi says the reason is because the ganovim might come. Here it says that if there's a wall that's leaning to Rishus Harabim, that means that it might fall. This is a whole different case, but the Gemara sees, similar to Rav Chisda, that if you have a wall which is leaning into Rishus Harabim, so then you're allowed to take it down because it's a dangerous wall, it might fall, and you're allowed to rebuild it because it's dangerous. What's the danger? The danger is that it's going to fall. So that right away the Gemara is going to say this is not what Rav Chisda said. Rav Chisda said that you're allowed to build a wall because the ganovim might come, and it's a davar of it. But the Gemara first says here, you see that you're allowed to build a regular wall. The Mishnah says only makarin, you're allowed to make a hutsa v'dafna, amateur wall. Here it says bono kedako, and it seems that the coastal of this next to Rishus Harabim is probably a coastal chutzner. It seems that the gina, the vegetable garden, was usually not next to Rishus Harabim. So the Gemara thinks that this wall here that we're talking about, that's next to Rishus Harabim, is mutter, must be like Rav Chisda says. But right away the Gemara jumps up. It doesn't say that. It says mepnei hasakana. No, it's not a proof to Rav Chisda, because Rav Chisda is matir not because of a danger that is going to fall down on somebody. It's mutter because ganovim might come in. So it's not a proof. I just would like to change the gears here. They point out that the girsa is difficult the way we have it, and is an easier girsa. So it means transferring a couple of lines later to put it over here. Yes. Oh, sure. Better? The lines later on over here, let's maybe highlight it, that it says over here, Hasam Nami, and this line over here. So we'll see later on, the line that's later on doesn't make so much sense over there, and they say that it really belongs over here, right over here. Let's make a mark over here also. This is where it belongs. something like that. So to put in this girsa in the yellow, to put it over here. So we'll read it now. Later on, we'll see that it doesn't fit so well over there. So it's better to fit over here. The Gemara is saying that maybe Rav Chisda is wrong. Rav Chisda says that you're allowed to build a wall because Ganav might come in. And the Bryce over here says that you're allowed to take down a wall that is leaning into a Shasarab because it's dangerous. You can take it down and build it up again. And the Gemara says that's not Rav Chisda's din. Rav Chisda maybe is wrong. Here it's only mutter because of sakana. So we jump now to the girsa later on. Hasav nami list of alo livni. If the reason, the Gemara is asking, if the reason why it's mutter in this Bryce is only because it's dangerous that it might fall, so then take it down. It's not a reason to build it up. What are we scared of? It's going to fall on somebody. So take it down. Why does it say that soser ubonu kedarko? Here it says if you have a skosel agochel which is around him soser ubonu kedarko, you got to take it down and build it up. If you say if Chis is wrong, that there's no heter of having a danger that another might come in, and you're just worried in the brisa because it's gonna fall down on somebody. So take it down, demolish the wall, and leave it down. It must be if Chis is right that the reason why you're allowed to build it up is because another shouldn't come in. So it seems now the Gemara is a little bit better. The Gemara didn't just not read the words. The Gemara read the words. It says B'nei Sakana, but the Gemara thought that's the only reason to take it down. Why are you allowed to build it up again? It must be because if Chis is right that once you take the wall down, so now the Ganav not going to come in. So it's a right of Chis still. The Gemara says no. The reason why we let you build it up again is not that maybe if Chis is wrong. But here you're not allowed to build up a wall. Here the reason why we allow you to build it up is because if we're not going to let him build it up, he's not going to take it down. We're really just interested that the wall shouldn't fall down on somebody. So we tell him take it down. But if we're going to tell him take it down, don't build him up. Well, don't build it up, then he's not going to take it down. But maybe if Chis is really wrong. So this gersa fits in beautifully if you stick it in over here. And that's how we read it, then it's nice. And we'll continue. We'll see that maybe it's not going to fit in later on where it is. And that's why they say the real gersa should be over here. The Gemara continues. Others have a different version in how they have made this question and answer against Rav Chisda. Tashma, kosala gochol u'shus rabim soser bonu kedakom b'nei asakana inch lo b'nei asakana lo. Here the Gemara this uses the same brisa, but before we thought that it was a supporter of Chisda, and now we switch the table around. On the contrary, we were saying what the Gemara realized later, that the Gemara right away realizes and says the brisa here says you're allowed to take it down because of danger. So it's against Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says you're allowed to build not because of danger, you're allowed to build because Ganava might come. So this is against Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says that you're allowed to build even for Ganavim, to protect from Ganavim. Rav Chisda says the reason why it says Sakana over there is because it wants this. Really, I'm right, that you're allowed to build for Ganavim also, to protect from Ganavim. And that's why you say that you're allowed to build. The reason why the Bryce says you're allowed to take it down is because it wants to tell you that you're allowed to take it down and build even more, even take it down. I just said that you're allowed to build it up. Here, the point was sakana, so it says you're allowed to take it down and build it up. But the way the Gemara is saying over here, at this point, the Gersa doesn't fit so well the way the Gemara reads, because at this point we're saying if Chisda is right. If Chisda is right, so then the Gemara is kasha asanami list of livni. You don't have to say kimim davalo sasa. The reason why if Chisda will say that you're allowed to take it down and build it up, you're allowed to take it down because it's dangerous. You're allowed to build it up because what I said you're allowed to build it up because of Ganavim. So at this point, the Gemara is difficult the way it reads. It fits much better before when the Gemara was coming against Rav Chisda. The Gemara is saying really Rav Chisda is wrong. There's no heter for Ganavim. The only reason that we allow you to take it down and build it up was only because of sakana, that it might fall on somebody. And at that, the Gemara has to say the reason why we let him to build it up, even though Rav Chisda is wrong. Building it up wouldn't be a heter just because of Ganavim. The reason why we let you build it up is because if we're not going to let you build it up in that particular case, you're not going to take it down. So Lamaisa, we do pass like Rav Chisda, and so whatever the gersa would be, Lamaisa, we do pass like Rav Chisda, and if there's a question of Ganavim, you would be allowed to fix it up. There's another point that if it's dangerous that it's going to fall down, we tell you take it down, build it up again, not because of Ganavim. Take it down because it's dangerous, it's going to fall on somebody. Lamaisa, both of them are true. The Gemara continues. The Mishnah also is meduyak like Rav Chisda, that the Mishnah that says that you have to do a shinoi, all that amateur wall is only when you're talking about a coastal gina, but it's not talking about a coastal chatzar. So now he's going to prove from the Mishnah itself. The Mishnah ends off that even though on Chol HaMoed you need shinoi, makorin, that's only a shinoi, but on Shemitah you could build regularly. So the Gemara's question is the Chiddush allowed to build on Shemitah? Of course, allowed to build on Shemitah. There's no problem of building on Shemitah. You're just not allowed to do agriculture. Tehecha, where are we talking about? Where's this wall? If you're talking about the wall of a chutzner, that's a chiddush not to build a wall of a chutzner on Shemitah. There's a chiddush. Yeah, doesn't have to say it. Pshita, of course you're allowed to build a wall around the chutzner. It must be talking about a gina, ela lav de gina. And by a garden, there is a chiddush that you're allowed to build a wall around a garden by Shemitah. It looks a little bit like you're not being mafkid of Paris. The fact that you have a garden that's supposed to be mafkid to everybody, and you're making a wall around it, maybe on Shemitah, but don't have to make a wall because not everybody knows that there's going to be an open door and you're going to be allowed to come in. So that's a Shemitah issue. So on that, the Mishnah has sense to tell you that on Shemitah you're allowed to build normally. And on that Mishnah, that's why it's on that case of the garden, that's where it says that you need a shinui on Chol HaMoed. You have to do only an amateur job. But if it would be a koisel chotzer, the Mishnah not talking about that b'chlal. And Rav Chisda says that if it's a koisel chotzer, so there's a chash of ganavim, you'd be allowed to build regularly. Shmami no. So just sum that all up, that there's issue about making a wall, a fence on Chol HaMoed. So if it's not a big pseudo of ganavim coming in, so just do what you need. So let's say animals shouldn't come in, that kind of pseudo. So do what you need, which is only a putz of a dafna, some kind of amateur fence. Rav Chisda says that if there's a question of ganavim coming and stealing, not the cucumbers, they're going to come into the chutzner, into the house, so then you'd be allowed to do a regular job, and you can call that a makom seder, davar ovid, you're allowed to do a regular job. The Gemara also brings a brisa that says if there's a chash that the wall is shaky and it might fall onto people in Rishus Rabim, so we tell them, take it down and build it up. And even though right now there's no chash ganavim, but we are choshish, the tzibur is choshish, it might fall on somebody, so then you're allowed to take it down and build it up kedarko. And on Shemitah, the Gemara says there's no difference if it's a chutzner or even a gina. We don't tell them that don't make the wall around the gina because it looks like you're protecting your produce and you're not going to let anybody take it. There's no such chash, and it's mutter on Shvius also to build regular. There's no issue to build on Shemitah. It's only an issue about the agriculture, so you'd be allowed to build regular. If that's good, so we continue to the next subject. And this is nothing to do with malachas anymore, but we're going into a new subject also Hilchos Chol HaMoed, and a few Mishnayos coming up is not going to be dafka about malacha. Someone comes to the Kohen. This is about Hilchos Saras. He comes with a nega and he wants to know if it's tummy or not. So the question is, and you have to come to the Kohen. The person has to come to the Kohen to see if it's tummy. And the question is, do we paskin on the goyim on Chol HaMoed, or we tell him a good moed, come back after the moed? Why should we trouble him to become tummy? As we know, we'll see the Gemara Namad Beis. It says that the nega doesn't become tamei by itself. When the Kohen says that it's tamei, he's not just clarifying what halacha is. Like if you come to the Rav with a question about treifa, if the animal is kosher or not, so the Rav is not creating the halacha, he's just telling you what it is. But by tzaras, it's not like that it doesn't become tamei until the declaration of the Kohen. So based on that, the Gemara wants to know if you have to paskin on a nega on Chol HaMoed, or you tell them, come back after the moed, enjoy, go eat and drink, have a good time, and we won't paskin on it until after the moed, in order not to save him, maybe to be able to save him from the difficulty of being tummy during the moed. So it may omer bonus on the goyim that you're allowed to check the nega. The Kohen is open for inspecting the nega, and if he has a good answer, he has good news, tells him the good news. If he has bad news, so he tells him, I'll see you after the moed. He doesn't have to give him the bad neus. He doesn't have to paskin on it that it's tamei. So he tells him if it's tohar, he tells him that it's tohar. If it's tamei, he doesn't tell him anything. The Chachamim are going to say, the Gemara is going to say Rav Yossi, the Chachamim argue on Rav Meir, and they say don't look at it at all. And the Gemara is going to say the reason is, right away we're going to see, because he holds you can't, if you looked at it to paskin, you can't hold back the psak. Then you have to paskin already. So if you're going to see that it's not good, you're going to have to tell him that it's tamei. So don't look at it at all. It's a close for business. The Kohen doesn't open up on Chol HaMoed, and he doesn't look at the neg at all. If he's going to see it, he's going to have to paskin. So don't look at it at all. According to Rav Meir, we could look at it, and if he has good news, he'll tell him. If he has bad news, he won't tell him. The Gemara continues. Tanya Rav Meir Omer. Same as words as our Mishnah. Rav Yossi Omer. First of all, you see that the Chachamim of our Mishnah is Rav Yossi. Lo lakav lo lachmir. So far, word for word. But the Bryce adds on a little bit more to explain Rav Yossi. Shem at niskak lo lahakel niskak lo lachmir. If you're going to look at it, you're coming to paskin for him. If it's a good news, then you're going to have to tell him the bad news also if it's bad news. So you don't have this option of looking at it and only telling him if it's good. So don't look at it at all. So everybody holds that if you don't paskin, it doesn't become tummy by itself, and it's not just what do we call it? It's not just hiding your head in the sand like the ostrich. It's not just that you're not looking. It doesn't become tummy until he says so. So no one wants to say tummy. No one wants to mess him up. But according to Meir, you can look at it and paskin the good news if it's not good enough, if it's good. And according to Yossi, you can't do that, so don't look at it at all. Amar Rebbe, near and Divri Meir b'Musgar, v'Divri Yossi b'Muchlat. So there are different levels of Matzorah. When he comes, he's Tohar, and then there's a Hezger. Sometimes he says, just to point out, we had this discussion in Maseches Megillah. We said that even though most people, they translate that the Hezger means you lock him up, quarantine, that he has to be locked up. So that's not so simple. They are shown him like that, but that's a big question. Why should he be quarantined? We said even a mukhlat, there's a muskar and then a mukhlat. The muskar is the time that it's a trial time that we're waiting to see what's going to happen. Is the nega going to get bigger? Is going to get simani tumah? Is going to get white hairs? And then mukhlat means when it's already absolute. He's absolute mitzorah that he has already simani tumah. It's already been too long to wait, and we waited the time, and either it spread, or if it waited the time and then it becomes tummy, even if it stays the same. But whatever the case is, mukhlat means there's an absolute mitzorah. And over there, it doesn't say anything about musgar. You don't lock him up. No din of quarantine. So somebody shown him learn that Hezger does not mean quarantine. It doesn't mean bidud. It doesn't mean quarantine him. Hezger just means that you make a mark with a marker. You make a mark around the nega to see how big it is with a pen, whatever, in order to see if it's going to spread. We have to know if the nega is going to spread. So how do you know exactly if it's spread or not? So you take a marker in order to lock in the nega. Musgar, it means to lock in the nega. Not the nagua, not the person, not the mitzorah, but the actual nega. So we'll take like that. I think that's the easier pshat in the Chumash and in the Gemaras. So there's a time that we don't say that is absolutely tameh, but he is called a musgar. We had the Gemara in Megillah that said that ein bein mitzorah musgar l'sar muchlat ela priya prima, only if he has to let his hair grow long. The monus muchla is absolute mitzorah. Then he has to tear his clothing. With Kriya, he has to let his hair grow long. But over there, we learned that both of them are mishtaleh chus lamachna. The din that a mitzvah has to go out of the three machnos, that's even by mitzvah musgar. So there's a tohor, there's a person who's yet before anything happened, he's tohor, and then there's a hezger in the time in the waiting period to see if he's kind of a mukhlat, and then there's also a stage of mukhlat after he's been already absolutely decided that he's a mitzvah. So here it says. Amar Rebbe, near Divri Rav Meir b'Musgar, the Divri Rav Yossi b'Muchlat. I agree to Rav Meir. The Rebbe is the one who says you look at it, and Rav Yossi is the one who says you don't look at it. It's a little different than what Rav Meir and Rav Yossi mean, because Rav Meir, we said, Rav Meir holds that you can look at it and only say the good news. If you can look at it and only say the good news, so then there's no reason not to look at anything. Look at everything at any stage, and if it's good news, tell them the good news. If it's bad news, don't tell them. So I think Taisus explains that even though he says, I hold like Rav Meir, I hold like Rav Yossi. Really, he holds like Rav Yossi. Really, he holds like Rav Yossi that you don't have the option of not saying. What?
Don't say anything.
You don't say anything because if you look at it, you have to say everything. Yeah. So he really holds like that. He really holds like Rav Yossi that you don't have the option of not saying if you see it. But even though you're going to have to, if you're passing on it, you're going to have to say, sometimes I agree to Rav Meir's din that you could look at it. It means it's not really, when he says, the Gemara doesn't really mean a pass like Rav Meir, because Rav Meir is going to say, look at it, and if it's good news, say it. If it's bad news, don't say it. It doesn't mean to say that. He means to say that even though I hold not like Rav Meir, I hold that you do have to say, if you're going to pass, you have to say both ways, but by a musgar, if he's a musgar, it's not dangerous because it can't get worse. Well, we're going to see, on Amud Beis, the Gemara is going to explain what Rabbi meant to say, that he's not scared by a musgar that it's going to get worse, because it can't get worse. It only could get better. But by Rabbi Yossi, by Mukhlat, over there, I do agree that don't look at it because it could get worse. It's very strange to us. At this point, the Gemara doesn't make sense because a Mukhlat is already his absolute Matzorah. How could it get worse? Either it stays the same or he tells him the good news that the nega went away. So we'll come back to this line of Rebbe. It has to be explained in Amud Beis. So far, what did the Brisa say? It explained to Rav Meir and Rav Yossi that Rav Yossi holds that you can't look at it and paskin only for the good. If you look at it, you have to paskin for both. So don't look at it at all. Rav Meir says you can look at it, and if it's good news, say it. If it's not, not. Rebbe had some idea that even though he holds that you have to paskin, if you look at it, you have to paskin either way. To look at a mitzvah musgar is not losing anything. You're not going to lose anything. It's not going to make it worse, which needs explanation. Why want to make it worse? If he sees that he became absolute mitzvah, we'll have to tell him. So we have to come back to that to understand Rebbe. We'll see it on Amud Beis. So that's the end of the brisa. The Gemara continues. Amar Rava, Everybody agrees that if a person who's Torah comes to the Kohen on Chol moed and on Yontif, and he asks him, he thinks he has a nega, everybody says don't look at it, because what's the problem? You're surely not going to get better. Leave it the way it is. What are the possibilities? When somebody that's Torah comes, either the Kohen say it's Torah, and he's very happy, or he tells him there's a problem over here. Maybe you have to have Hesger, maybe you have to have Hechlet. So everybody holds, even our mayor, everybody will say, don't look at it. Why look at it? You're not gaining anything. There's no reason to gain. You only have what to lose. So then nobody will say to look at it.
That's why
he's a Tohor. He's a Tohor. Here, one line up. The Tohor. Everybody holds if a Tohor person comes and he says, Kohen, I think I have a nega. He says, a good moed. I'll see you after Yontif, because what should I look at it for? Right now you're Torah, so have a good moed. And after Yontif, we'll see what the problem is. I can't make anything better for you. If anything, it's only going to be worse. So don't come. Don't look at it. Everybody holds like that.
I could ease your mind and tell you that it's tired. You have a good, better Yontif.
So that I hear, but that the Gemara doesn't see the emotional stress. The Gemara doesn't seem to consider. Only practical. He's going to become in a worse situation. So he can't get it right now. He's Torah. It's true. He has it on his mind. Maybe I'm going to become tummy. That we can't help him for. But he's saying that it would help him to look at it and tell him the good news. But that the Gemara doesn't seem to consider.
You don't need a kind. You could get a friend with Talmud Chacham to look at it.
No. Only a client could say so.
Yeah, but he could, to assure him that it's tar, you could go to the Rav in the basic council also.
Kenega near him. Yeah, he can't say.
Well, your person not allowed to say. You see your friends and you know to read all that.
The Kohen is the one who's going to create the tumah. But if he sees that, I know what the Kohen is going to say. So if he wants to just reassure him, I know Hilchah is going to go, and I'm sure the Kohen is going to say that it's Torah. So have a good. It could be assured. That's okay. Like that. The official psak, the official tumah, if he becomes tumah, you need the Kohen to declare. But if you just want to reassure him, so you can tell him, I know what the Kohen is going to say. That's a possible answer to your question. Okay, but anyway, the Gemara says that the Gemara doesn't seem to involve the emotional part of it. It just says that there's no actual gain by looking at the Torah, because he's Torah right now. So don't say anything. So everyone will agree, don't look at it. Now, there's sometimes it has Gerishon, then has Gesheni. The Pasuk says that you lock it up. I'm saying the word it, just to stay clear. Lock it up, whatever it is, that there's a waiting period in order to see if it gets worse. And then if nothing changes, so then another week. There's a second week, has Gesheni. So here it says, everybody agrees that you should look at it. Why is that? Even according to Rabbi Yossi, that says you have to say the news for good or for bad. It seems from the words of the Gemara that it can't get worse. At the first week, after the first week, he comes and he's already has the suffix. He's already in the stage of the first Hesger, and he comes to the Kohen on the Chol moed, and he wants to see if it got better or if it got worse. So here it says that everyone will agree that you could look at it. And why is that? Even though Rabbi Yossi says you have to say whatever you see, the Kohen cannot hold back any punches, if it's good or bad. Here, it can't get worse. The words of the Gemara seem to say that even Rabbi Yossi will say there's no loss of looking at it because it can't get worse. Because at most, Rashi says, what's why? Because at most, Rashi says it'll be locked up a second week. Lo mitami la yoser. The Meikori is not going to become worse than before. So the Hesger Sheni is not any worse than the Hesger Rishon, even though it's a week later, like it's a week closer. It's one step closer to becoming Mukhlat, but it's still, in practicality, it's the same situation. Nothing else is happening worse. There's a question on the Gemara over here that maybe he's going to tell him that you're a Mukhlat right away. This Gemara needs explanation. We'll leave the question without an answer. That why does it say that Hesger Rishon it can't get worse, and you could no damage looking at it? Why can't it get worse? What if he sees that it has Simani Tumman, he's a Mukhlat, he tells him, I'm sorry to tell you that you're worse than a Hesger, now you're already a Mukhlat. The Gemara doesn't consider that choice. It just says that if it's Hesger Rishon, it might go into a second week of Hesger. This is a difficult Gemara because he might go into a Mukhlat also. What are the choices? Either the Nega went away, or stayed the same, or it got worse. So the Gemara is not considering the fact that it got worse. It might have gotten worse. He sees two hairs over there, two white hairs, and he tells him it's a mukhlat, and now he goes home crying that he's a Masar mukhlat. The Gemara doesn't consider that. The Gemara just looks at it that if he'll tell him it stayed this, you have to have a second week of Hesger. So I'm pointing out the question, and we'll leave it. So no one will argue if he's a Torah, don't look at it, and if he's Hesger Rishon, do look at it because nothing to lose. If he's a Torah, there's nothing to gain. Don't look at it. If he's a Hezger Rishon, there's nothing to lose. So look at it. If he's already in the second week of Hezger, and the question is if he's going to become a Mukhlar or not, so then that's the question. Maybe it'll be good news that'll tell him that it went away, the nega went away. Maybe it'll be bad news that he's into Hechlet, into Mukhlat. So therefore, Rabbi will say, look at it and tell him only the good news if you have. And Rabbi Yosef will say, you can't just tell him the good news if you have. You have to tell him the bad news also. So don't look at it at all. Rabbi holds that it depends on the coin, whatever he wants to tell him. So you can look at it. If it's Torah, he tells him the good news that it's Torah. If it's Tamei, he says a good moed. I'll see you after the Achag. Rabbi Yosef says that it says either that the kohen is going to decide l'taharo or l'tamo, so he can't. It's not up to him to stay quiet. If he sees that it's Torah, he tells him Torah. If he sees it's Tamei, he says it's Tamei. So better, Rabbi Yossi says, don't look at it at all. So we have Rava's limited the machlokas. The machlokas is not when he's Torah because there's nothing to gain. The machlokas is not in Hesker Rishon because there's nothing to lose. The machlokas is by Hesker Sheni that he has what to gain and what to lose. So Rabbi Meir says, tell him the gain and don't tell him the loss. If it's and Rabbi Yossi says you can't do that, so therefore don't look at it at all. Now we go. Yes, please.
In terms of your question, how to understand where we allow the kohen to say something. There's a gears from the Gra over here. He changes a little bit.
He changes Hezger Rishon to Hezger Sheni. He makes some apech on the Gemara. Right. That's altogether different.
Right.
And then the question was, it says Hezger and okay, maybe we'll go. The gears will be different. Okay, the Gemara continues. Back to Rebbe. So we had in the Brisa at the bottom of the first page of Amar Alpi, had the Brisa where Rebbe said that near in Divrei Meir b'Muzgar, Divrei Yossi b'Muchlat. So now we're going, when we talk about a Muchlat, we're talking about that he's already, there means that fourth stage, there's the first four stages we can talk about. We talk about that he's Tohar, and always in the first week of Hezger, always in the second week of Hezger, always a Muchlat already. And now the question is, as a Muchlat, he's already been decided, he's out, he's Tama Yikra, and he's a prima, Mamash as a nega, how do you say, bonded and everything? What is it called? That is certified that Mamash real nega. And the question is that it went away. Eventually, it can go away. So that's another fourth stage that we didn't talk about yet, that Rabbi didn't put into his list. Rabbi spoke about a Tohar, the first week, the second week. He didn't talk about a Mukhlat. And if you go back to Rebbe said that I agree to Rabbi Yossi not to look at it when he's a Mukhlat, which to us that sounds very strange. What could you lose? He's mamish. He's really the guy who's really the worst. He's a mukhlat, and now he might become Torah. So what do you have to lose? What we said till now, that you have nothing to lose in the Hezger Rishon, we would say you have nothing to lose in the mukhlat. The mukhlat has nothing to lose. And Rebbe seemed to say the opposite. He said when he's a mukhlat, then don't look at it. When he's a musgar, so then you're not going to lose anything. So then look at it. And if he's a mukhlat, then don't look at it. So that needs explanation. Rebbe seems to be very opposite, counterintuitive. So the Gemara says now, Anamid base, third line. Amar Rebbe, near Divrei Rabbi Yossi b'Muchlat for Divrei Rabbi b'Muzgar. That's the words we had till now. And the Gemara doesn't say it doesn't make sense. The Gemara says Vatanya Ipcha. There's a verse that says the exact opposite, which the exact opposite would make sense to us. That by Muchlat you could look at it because nothing to lose. It's already the bottom of the barrel. It can't get worse. Only can get better. And Divrei Rabbi Meir. And Divrei Rabbi Yossi b'Muzgar, because it could get worse. That's what the Brisa that says the opposite would make a lot of sense to us. But the Gemara doesn't say that the first one doesn't make sense. It just says that opposite Brisa seem to argue on it, seem to be machlokis. So the Gemara says that's not a machlokis. Tanohi aliba Divrei Rabbi. It's machlokis what Rabbi meant to say. Mar savat tzavsa da alma adiflei, or mar savat tzavsa da ishto adiflei. That's the end of the Gemara. And at this point, the Gemara is going to continue, but that's the end of that piece. And the words itself mean, the word tzavsa means companionship. Tzavsa means to be together with. So there's tzavsa the alma and there's tzavsa the ishto. Tzavsa the alma means that he's together with people. And tzavsa the ishto that he can be together with his wife. What does all that mean? So there's a din about shiluach machana. The din is that a matzara musgar, matzara muchlat, we had that already in Megillah, that it says, ein bein matzara musgar, matzara muchlat, ela prima, and the Gemara said, but as far as Shiluach Machna, both of them are the same. That even a Masar Musgar, Masar Mukhlar, both of them have to go out of the Machna. They can't stay in Machna, even Machna Yisrael. Not only a Machna Shechina, Machna Levia, they can't even be a Machna Yisrael. But even a Musgar, right? Even a Musgar. People don't know that, but that's the Gemara in Megillah. That even a Musgar is pretty serious, very serious. That even when he's a Musgar, he has to go out of the Machna. And then when he comes back, he's a Torah mitoch, he's tummy also. He has to go to the mikvah. Just he doesn't have to have the whole Seder Tara of Tiglachas, Vesiparim, all that he doesn't have to have. I think he also doesn't have to have the Sfira Shiva 7 days. But there, when he's outside the Machne, there's no halacha that he can't be with his wife. His wife could come. There's no problem. There's no then he can't come with his wife, and he can have relations. No, he should have relations when he's a musgar. But when he's a muchlat, the Gemara is going to talk about. Also, I'm sorry, by muchlat also he has to go out of the machne, and also the Gemara is going to say that he's mutter to have relations with his wife. But muchlat, even a muchlat. As far as the Rashi says, Rashi says different over here, and this whole sugya Taisha has cautious, and I'll be cautious. And again, some of it is against the Chord and Ferish Gemara and Megillah that we learned. So we're going more or less with Tosfos. I can't say I'm doing everything. I didn't get all the details, but in general, that both a Musgam and a Muchlat, they're all out of the Machne, and they're all mutter to have relations, mutter be'ishto. But in the Tara process, after the Muchlat, he's been a Muchlat. He's been as long as he's been a Muchlat. How long has he been a Muchlat? As long as it is. It could be like the Gemara is going to. They says that even some person could be a Muchlat for years. Uziyo, 25 years. It could have been a person. Once a person has an ega, he doesn't become tahor until the nega goes away. It could be there for years. We hope not. We hope that he's davening and it goes away right away. But then he has the whole Torah process of how to become tahor, and he says that the Kohen comes out of the Machne, and he has with the Shtei Tziporim, and then there's a process of coming into the Machne 7 days, and then Karbonis, until he finally becomes tahor. That's the shave, the Glachas 2 times, and then he could eventually become tahor, Karbonis. But in the 7 days that he comes back into the Machne, that's called Yemei Sfiro. That's called the time that he counts 7 days. He could come into the Machne, but he's not allowed to have relations with his wife. And that the Gemara talks about it's a downside. Even though he's coming out of the Tumah, he's been a Muchlat, he's been a Nega. Finally, the good news comes that the Nega went away. The Torah process has a downside that he's going to be also to have relations with his wife for 7 days. And that's what the Gemara is going to talk about, that there is a downside. We asked the Kasha that when it says that Nir and Divrei Rabbi Yossi Muchlat, that when he's a muchlat, don't check it out because it could go down. The question, what do you mean down? It's at the bottom of the barrel already. He's a muchlat. How could it get worse? So it's a very big kiddush what the Gemara is saying, that even the Torah process, that's called a downside. He's going to get closer to becoming Torah, but that involves that he's going to be usher with his wife for 7 days. So maybe rather wouldn't have that, which is really a pella. The Tzavsa Alma means that he gets back into civilization. Till now he's been out of the Machne. He's not going to come into the Machne. So it's not us to go into his house either. That's can have relations, but that's called Samsa Dalma, that he has companionship with the world. He's back in civilization. But Samsa the Ishtal means is you're allowed to have relations. When he's a muchlat, he's allowed to. When he comes into the Torah process for 7 days, he's not allowed to. So that's how the Gemara explains. Okay, the two machlokesin was when Rebbe said Nir and Divrei Rabbi Yossi b'muchlat or Nir and Divrei Rabbi Yossi b'musgar. What did he hold? If you hold like the Pashtas, that he'd rather. He'd suffer the 7 days of not being with his wife in order to be able to get back on the Torah, and he gets back into civilization with people. So then, near and Divrei Rabbi Yossi musgar. Don't look at it because he might become a muchlat. It might get worse. A muchlat is worse than a musgar. He has to priya prima. He has to rent his clothing. He has to let his hair grow long. But if he's a muchlat, then you could look at him because he can't get worse. What's going to happen? Have the Torah process very good, even though it'll be also for 7 days. But the other girsa, the one that said Nir and Divrei Rabbi Yossi, I hope I said it right. Maybe I lost my trend of thought. But the brisa that says Nir and Divrei Rabbi Yossi b'muchlat holds that it's not a good thing to. It's difficult for him if the Kohen's going to tell him that now the nega went away and start the Torah process because he's going to be also for his wife 7 days. So therefore. Don't look at it. Don't look at it when he's a muchlat. When he's a musgar, so then the situation is going to stay the same, even though he might become a muchlat. But the situation is the same, that he's mishtalech chus l'machna and he's mutter with his wife. The Gemara is surprised that a muchlat is mutter to have relations with his wife. The memra the muchlat mutter b'tashmish amita. You seem to say that a person who's a masar muchlat is allowed to have relations. Is that true? The Gemara says yes. Right away, the Gemara is going to be able to bring a machlokas about it, but first the Gemara says this is Rebbe talking, and Rebbe is going to hold that a mitzvah is mutter to have relations. Vatanya means b'nichusa. It doesn't mean a kasha. It means yes, and I'll show you brisa that says so. It says in the pasuk, this means in the Torah process, after the Kohen came out to the Machna and he did the Tziporim, whatever he has to do with the two birds. Then it says he goes into the Machna. He could go back into the camp, but he should stay out of his tent for 7 days. That the Gemara says it doesn't mean that he has to stay out of his house, but it means he can't have relations. Because when it says ohel, it means his wife, and it means that he should be away from his wife for 7 days. So he's asked to have relations during the 7 days of the Torah process. How do you find that the word ohel means his wife? Lechem over there it's talking about after Har Sinai. So it says that Hashem told Moshe, tell Am Yisrael they can go back home and they can have relations again, even though it said that Al Tikshu Elisha in preparation for Matan Torah, it says that they weren't allowed to have relations. After Matan Torah, Shuvu Lachem Lo Lechem. So you see that the word ohel is referring to one's wife. So what do we see so far? That during the 7 days of Shivas Yomim, he's usher to have relations. But the Brisa continues, they changed this Rabbi Yehuda Omer, they changed it to Rebbe Omer. Rebbe, we want Rebbe over here. Shivas Yomim, now there's a big confusion over here. And it says on the side here, Shivas Yomim Yisprulo, it says Yecheskel 44. That's a big confusion. So much better Girsa would take out the words Yisprulo, take out these two words, take out Yisprulo. It's just Shivas Yomim. And it's not Yecheskel 44. It's right here before in Vayikra 14 that it says, we're going back in the passage that I said before. This Girsa change is much a great help. That it says, and that's what we learned out, that he's asked to have relations during the 7 days. And this Shivas Yomim is the same Shivas Yomim. It's going back to the pasuk we just said. That's it. Shivas Yomim, not Yisrael. Take out Yisrael. That's a mistake. So then it's very nice. Rabbi Omer, Shivas Yomim, Yimei Sfiro v'lo Yimei Chaluto. That we said a second ago that he has to be out of his way from his wife, Choslo Halo, Olozu Ishto, for 7 days. Only the 7 days. Means only the 7 days is the time that is also, but in Mechaluto is mutter to have relations. So the Girsa change Ramish makes a very over there the pasuk Yecheskel is talking about Tumas Meis. It's not talking about Bechlal, about the counting, about the Metzora. So this Girsa change is very simple and makes everything clear. So the Brisa says that a muchlat is mutter b'tashmish hamita. That's what we're looking for. Like the Gemara started off. Remember the muchlat mutter b'tashmish hamita. Yes, the Brisa says so. It says that the Metzora, when he's in his Torah process, he has to stay out away from his wife for 7 days. And the Gemara explains, the Bryce explains, the only days of his counting, but in the days that he was Tamei Mamish, he's allowed to be with his wife. So Rabbi Yosef Yud argues, it's true, the pasuk says Shivas Yomim, but Kal V'chomer, if he's asked to be with his wife even in the days of his Torah process, so Kal V'chomer, when he was Mamish Tamei, also he'd be asked to be with his wife. So that's the machlokis, but our Gemara is going to Rebbe, and Rebbe holds that is mutter. Rabbi Chia says that I was the word Danti is to learn, but to judge means I was presenting the case. I presented the case before Rebbe to prove that Matzah Muchlat is mutter to have relations. The Maratanu Rabbeinu Yosam Lo Uziyahu El B'Mechaluto. The Rebbe taught us that Uziyahu, the king Uziyahu, the king of Yehuda, and he gave birth to his son was Yosam. The big something the Gemara says about Yosam, but it comes out that if you make the cheshbon of how long Uziyahu was a Metzora and how old Yosam was, so it comes out that Yosam was born to Uziyahu when he was a Metzora. So that's a raya that Uziyahu was allowed to have relations even though he was a Metzora. The fact that he had a son during that time, that means that he had relations. So that's a proof that a Metzora Muchlat is allowed to, is mutter be'ishto. So is that not true? So Rabbi said, yes, I agree. Yeah, I said the same thing. That it's true. Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says that a Matzah Muchlat is aser. It's a kasha on him, but it's not a kasha on me. I take a hold that a Matzah Muchlat is allowed to have relations with his wife. But Mike, if we give us some machlokes over here, if a Matzah Muchlat is mutter beishto, Rabbi Yehuda Sava Gali Rachman B'Mei Sfiro v'Kol Shken B'Mei Chaluto. It's true. Everyone agrees. The pasuk just says that he's aser b'chutz la'lo shivas yomim, but the Rabbi Yehuda says kal v'chomer. Like we said, that if he's aser even in the Torah process, kal v'chomer when he was tamei. Only what the pasuk says, what it doesn't say, it doesn't say. So therefore, it does says the 7 days is aser. So during the days of chaluto, it's takamutter, and it's even supported by the fact that Uziyahu gave birth to Yosam during the point of the cheshbon. It comes out that he was a Matzora at that time. a job and look at it and paskin for leniency and not paskin if it's bad news. That was the point that Rameir and Rabbi before. But everybody holds that it doesn't happen by itself. It doesn't become tamei by itself. And also that if he has reason not to, he doesn't have to look at it. Rabbi Yossi also says that since if you can look at it, you can have to paskin both ways. So don't look at it at all. And Rabbi Meir says you can look at it and paskin halfway. So where's the source for all this? That the Kohen doesn't become tummy by itself, and the Kohen has the option of not looking at it. So it's a new sugi starting over here. Excuse me. Lemera, did the Kohen Talia Milsa? Do you mean to say that it depends on the Kohen if he wants to look at it, and if he doesn't want to look at it, he doesn't have to? And this is famous. Everybody knows. I think we learned the Chumash. We learned this that the Kohen only becomes tummy when the Kohen says so, and also we're learning that the Kohen doesn't have to look at it if he has reason not to. Yes, Vatan you learned in the Brisa. Vatan is not a kasha. It's also b'nei chusa. It says bo. It talks about when the Kohen sees that it's tummy, that it's Torah. So it says on the day, extra word on the day that it's seen. So whatever the psak over there says, but it says on the extra word over there on the day that it's seen. That it seems in the pasuk that there are some days, at a drash level, of course, that there are some days that it's seen. There are some days that it's not seen. Which days is it not seen? Rabbi Yehuda says that this pasuk says there's a certain day. From there we could deduce that not always you look at the Goyim, and it gives an examples that a chassan during the 7 days of Shiva Simei Mishnah, the 7 days of celebrating, so he doesn't, if he has a nega, he doesn't go to the Kohen, and even if the Kohen knows that is a nega, he doesn't say anything because it's the option of the Kohen not to look at it. For him, and it's also the house means if it's on his skin, or if it's an egg on his house, or it's an egg on his garment, that it's 7 days free. Also by the regal, everybody's celebrating. Also, a person during the regal doesn't go to the Kohen, and that's what we just learned over here. Everybody holds that the Kohen doesn't have to paskin on it. The only question was, is there a permission for the Kohen to look at it and only say the good news or not? That was a particular machlokas between Rabbi and Rabbi Yossi. But everybody holds that if it's going to be bad, if he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to look at it at all. So this is the source. The pasuk says, that was the source to say that it doesn't become tamei by itself, and also that the Kohen has the option of not looking at it. Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Omer, Rabbi agrees to the din, but he says you don't need that pasuk. There's a different pasuk. Omer, this is what everybody knows. Over there it says that when the person thinks that he goes to the Kohen and says, I think I have a nega. So the Kohen says, I'm coming, but before I come, empty out the house from all the furniture. Why is that? Because if I'm going to come and I'm going to say the house is tamei, then all the furniture is tamei. And you're going to be a lot of work. Everything has to go to the mikveh, and some things can't go to the mikveh. It's going to become permanently tamei. You're going to have to throw it out. So therefore, I'm not going to come until they empty out the house. So that shows that it doesn't happen by itself. When the Kohen says that it was tamei, it doesn't mean the whole time it was tamei. It means only from now on. So you see that the Kohen is the one who creates the tumah, and also you see that you're allowed to wait in order that the kelim shouldn't become tamei, and that's called the devar rishus. It's not a mitzvah; it's a voluntary thing. It's just that the kelim shouldn't become tamei for nothing. So if you see that you wait not to make it tamei for a devar rishus, kal v'chomer for a mitzvah like a chassan or like the regel, that surely we're not going to interrupt with the simcha of the wedding or of the regel to make it tamei. The same way, kal v'chomer imam tina lo the devar rishus kol shkein the devar mitzvah. If we wait for devar rishus, that's that the kelim shouldn't become tamei. Surely we're going to wait for the chassan or for the regel. So two drushes to learn out this halacha that it doesn't become tamei until the Kohen says so, and that the Kohen has a right to stall, to push off. What? To delay. Thank you. My benayu. Is there any difference between the two drushes? We have two drushes here. One was biyom hey rosebo, and one was uvetziva kon pinu abayis. Is there any machlokus, any difference between the two drushes? Amar Abai mashmar darshnik benayu. So Abai says no, there's no difference. That's where you learn out from, but there's no practical application. There's no ramification. There's no difference between the two drushes. Rabbi Amar dvar rishus benayu. Rabbi says there's a difference because the first one, the second one, Rabbi says you learn out pinu abayis. So he says for dvar rishus and kal v'chomer to dvar mitzvah. But the first man, Rabbi Yehuda, he didn't want to learn out from there. He learned out only from the first drasha. Are you allowed to delay for a dvar rishus? Rabbi Yehuda says, "Wasam logaminan the chidushu the ha eitzim ba'avani ba'alma lo metamu v'acham metamu." Over there, he says that it's not a raya that you're allowed to delay for a dvar rishus. You only allowed to delay, like we said, a low, the base, or the ksuso, that you're allowed to delay for the chasen and for the regel, for him, for his house, for his garment. If he sees an ega, so he doesn't paskan on it till after the regel, till after the Shevis Shabbat brachas. But Rabbi says that according to Rabbi Yehuda, that's only for a mitzvah. But for a dvar rishus, you wouldn't be allowed to delay looking at it for your own personal reasons. Even though the pasuk says in Pinus Abayis, he says, I agree to the halacha that it says it's even going to Pinus Abayis. But over there, it's only because it's talking about the tumah of the house. Tumah of the house is a big chiddush, he says. Usually a house doesn't become tameh. He says, Eisim Avan, usually it's not a kabul tumah. A house doesn't become tameh. Even when you have a mace in the house doesn't become tameh. By Mitzvah, there's a special halacha that the house becomes tameh, the stones become tameh, you have to take it apart and put it into a place which is tameh. So for that kind of a tumah, over there the Torah says that the whole tumah is a chiddush. Over there, the Torah says that you're allowed to delay until the Kohen comes. For the dvar rishus, you could delay and make sure you take out all the kalim before the house becomes tameh. But by a tumah, which is a tumah that is not just a chiddush, that a person becomes tameh, that a beged becomes tameh. So there, we don't allow you to delay for a dvar rishus, only for a dvar mitzvah. So that's the end of the sugya today. Just to summarize a little bit what we did. The first sugya spoke about rodents over there, back to the Chol Moed with the destructive mole and mice. So it says that sometimes you need a shinui. It tells you how to do the shinui. Machlokas Rishon, if it means how that you kill it, or it means how you make the bore in order to put the trap in. And everyone agrees that a stay ilan is a hefsid. You don't need that shinui. By a stay love one that's next to a stay ilan, also you don't need a shinui. Only when it's a stay love one that's isolated next to the city and there's no chash is going to damage the trees. Machlokas if you need a shinui or not. It says that when you have a breach in a fence, so you're allowed to make an amateur kind of a temporary fence, hutz of a dafna. That's only when it's a question about a garden. It's not a real hefsid moment. So then it's enough to keep out the animals by making some kind of hutz of a dafna. But if it's going to be a question of ganavim coming in, so it's a hefsid. If Chista says that it's supposed to make a regular wall, and the Gemara agrees with him, at the end the Gemara comes out like that, a dik from the Mishnah, that the Mishnah means that it's talking about a coastal gina only, but a coastal chatzi you'd be allowed to make a regular wall. Also, the brisa comes in about a dangerous wall. We tell them that daf could take it down, that shouldn't hurt anybody, and we're going to allow them to build it up again. Surely is allowed to build it up because now it became a chash for the ganavim again. You'd be allowed to build it up, even around the gina. Also, you'd be allowed to build it up again a regular way, because if you're not going to let him build it up, he's not going to want to take it down. The Gemara ends off also that the point of Shvius being mutter is only a chiddush by a gina, because it looks like he's protecting his fruit. He's not going to be mafkirit, otherwise it wouldn't be a chiddush that you're allowed to build on Shemitah. And the chiddush, the halach, it comes out that there is no difference between a gina and a chatzar, that on Shemitah there's no problem, you're allowed to build regular. The next halach is about the gum. We don't want to make the person tameh on the regel, so we give him the free pass that he could come back after the regel. But Mishnah does talk about if there's a possibility to make him good news and no bad news. If you're allowed to do that, we would do that. Rameh holds you could do that, but Rabbi Yossi, the Chachamim, say you can't. If you're going to look at it, the paskin, you have to paskin for good or for worse, and therefore you don't look at it at all. The Gemara says that there are cases where everybody says don't look at it because they have nothing to gain when he's tahar, and there's cases where there's nothing to lose. So surely do look at it. There's a question over there, when is the case where there's nothing to lose? And the question was only when it's a question of gaining and losing, so then could you look at it for the gain and not for the loss? Rebbe, according to one gear, says that there's also a loss even by a mukhlat, even though he's already, the bottom of the barrel, he's already a mukhlat, but it could get worse even. How is that? If he's going to become tohar, so the tahara process includes that he has to be 7 days away from his wife or relations. He can go back into the machna, but he can't have relations, so maybe that's a downside for him and he'd rather not. So maybe that's considered a downside. Maybe Rabbi Yossi will say, don't look at it in that case. And there's another gersa in the brisa and the Rebbe, the opposite brisa that says that by mukhlat it can't get worse. It's just going to get better. If it's a musgar to a mukhlat, if it's going to be a musgar, then it could get worse, because a musgar to a mukhlat is going to be pri and prima, and that's a worse kind of a tumah. The Gemara discussed if a mukhlat is mutter b'tash b'shamita, means the 7 days, surely it's fair pasuk to the 7 days of the tahara process he's also to have relations. The question is, do you say kal v'chomer that it's also during the time that is a mukhlat? And that's mamash a big issue, because it could be a mukhlat for many, many years. Like it says, that could be 25 years. The person could be, once he has a nega, It depends when it goes away. And according to one side, the Rabbi Yosef holds that a mukhla is not allowed to have relations all that time. But Rebbe holds that it's permissible, and the Gemara even backs it up with the story of Uziyahu that comes out according to the Cheshbon that he gave birth to his son Yosam while Uziyahu was a Mitzorah. So you see that Mitzorah is allowed to have relations. I think that's the halacha. And the last thing the Gemara brought was the source of the halacha that you're allowed to delay looking at it if you don't want to, or if it's bad, if there's no reason to, or the Gemara says better. The Gemara says when there's a mitzvah, Shiva Simei Mishnah or Shiva Simei Regel, so you're allowed to push off from seeing it. It doesn't become tummy till the point paskins, and he doesn't have to paskin if he doesn't want to, if there's reason not to. So it brings two drushes over here. One is from the pasuk of Yom Hei Re'oz Bo, that mashma that sometimes you don't have to look at it. And the other pasuk was from the fact that every time that the Kohen goes to check out the house, first they clean out they tell the Kohen not to come until they clean out the kalim that they shouldn't become tamei. That's a dvar rishus. And everyone agrees to that halacha, but the question was, could you apply that to also delaying to see the neg on a person, which is not like the Gemara says that on top that it's a over there. What is it called? How does the Gemara say the words that it's a chiddush or something? The whole tumah is a chiddush, so therefore that kind of a tumah we're allowed to delay and not look at it if there's a dvar rishus. But for a real tumah that we're used to, nega on the skin or on a person on the garment, so then Rebbe would say that you're not allowed to delay for a dvar rishus, only for a dvar mitzvah. Okay, yashar koach everybody, and we'll be back with Navi in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.